Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 32 of High Street Sports. My name is Chris. This is John Ross. We are in the midst of all of the bowl game. We are in the aftermath of the college football playoff selection show. We know all the bowl matchups and know where everybody's going. Some more happy about that than others. John Ross, what's going on, man? How are you feeling? What's your initial thoughts on all of this college football madness?
Hey, man. Yeah, lots to talk about. Probably the most pins and needles just anybody's been on for a college football playoff selection since its inception a few years ago. We're going to talk about, did they get it right? Our point of views on that. We'll talk about the wave of people that have gone into the transfer portal since the regular season ended. We're going to talk about the Heisman race, obviously our NFL talk. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about all the happenings the past few days in college football.
Yeah, and it's been a jam-packed last 7 to 10 days in the college football space. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out. I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff on social media. There were two former players of Colorado that kind of gave a sit down with Jason Whitlock on his show and kind of gave their background on how the initial reaction with Dion and how that stuff went with the players that were basically just told to leave at Colorado. It's an interesting situation there and how all that stuff worked out. But an even more interesting situation on who's in the portal right now. The big names keep coming. The surprises keep coming. First and foremost, I think today, not too long ago, Trevor Etienne, running back out of Florida, entered his name in the transfer portal. He should be a sought-after piece. A running back that I think has 2 years of eligibility remaining.
He does.
So he could be a big pickup for somebody. Other notable names, most of them being quarterbacks on this list. It started off by the Ohio State transfer Kyle McCord, who after, what some would say a lackluster showing, others would look at his numbers and disagree with that. But, Ohio State didn't get to where they wanted to. And there's a few players that suffered from that. And we'll get to that in just a second. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel, who looks to play for his third team in his 7th or 8th year of eligibility in college. Quarterback Dante Moore leaving UCLA. Cam Ward leaving Washington State. Will Howard, Riley Leonard, DJ Uiagalelei is in the portal again. And then you've got a couple standout defensive linemen from Texas A&M in the portal, as well as Aiden Chiles.
That 2022 recruiting class for A&M, I feel like.
Yeah. And then quarterback Aiden Chiles leaves Oregon State and has already chosen Michigan State for his next destination. So, initial thoughts here on some of these names in the portal. What are your thoughts on the portal and how things are going with this, new era of college football and what it means to the sport?
Yeah, it's definitely the new norm for college football, the transfer portal. It's insane. We talk about it behind the scenes. I'll just say this, I do like the immediate eligibility, but we got to cap it at some point, how many times these dudes can transfer. Or if you're not going to cap it, then you got to go back to the old rule where if this is your second, third transfer, you got to wait. You got to sit down a year. I mean, I know you do that. You're playing with having 30-year-olds playing college football, but I mean, you got to regulate it somehow. But I mean, at the same time, it is kind of exciting because I mean, as much as people don't like it, at the same time, there's appeal. It's free agency of college football, so there is a little bit of appeal to it. Instant reactions, though. I mean, lots and lots of quarterbacks out there. I mean, the big prize, I think, in the transfer portal quarterback is Cam Ward to me from Washington State. I think he's a really, really talented guy. He can do it with his arms and his legs, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Kyle McCord, interested to see him declare or enter the portal so quickly, especially after the season ended. I don't buy this stuff that Ryan Day pushed him out. I feel like he posed the question, or he posed the situation to him it's going to be a competition next year. We got this guy coming in. Devin Brown is going to be back next year. It's not guaranteed. And I mean, McCord made the decision to go see if the grass is green on the other side, and remains to be seen if it is. I did see that he's visiting with Nebraska, and I can tell you it won't be greener on that side with that idiot they have coaching them. Yeah, it's just the new norm for college football. It is part of it is annoying. I get it. That, like I said, there is still some appeal to it, but all that to say, I'm of the opinion like the NCAA college football playoff, somebody's got to do something to kind of regulate this and like penalize. Not penalize is the wrong word. Just kind of keep these kids in check. Like you can't just go wherever you can't just go. Like these schools aren't pit stops. Like is what I'm trying to say. Like if you're gonna go somewhere, like we're gonna make you earn the right to play there. Like you have to sit a year if this is more than your first time transferring.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I don't mind the first, the one-time transfer eligibility of, some of this stuff. But I think where it's getting out of hand is it's turned into, almost NFL free agency. And especially after Matt Rule came out, last week and said that basically what it's going to cost to get a quality transfer quarterback in the portal is $1 million to $1.5 million. And, that to me just, it seems wrong that the coaches are kind of in on that and know that.
Yeah.
There's nothing that they can do about that, unfortunately. And shame on the NCAA for not getting ahead of any of this stuff. I know there are rules that come with the transfer portal, even though you can't really tell because tampering is very much a thing.
And the same thing goes for recruiting right now too. I mean, that thing you sent me the other day of that dude who's the Ohio State commit who flipped to Miami. There's literally a pile of money in his commitment graphic. Like, could you be any more obvious? Like, why you went there?
It's not even being hidden anymore. And like, people are saying that this is all stuff that was happening in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that behind closed doors. But Jesus, at least it was behind closed doors. I mean, you are committed to Ohio State for, I can't remember when Justin Scott committed, but it was sometime, I think earlier on in the season. So, I mean, it's been, 2 or 3 months since he's been committed, if not more than that. And then he made the comment of, from the time Miami offered up until he flipped, their message had stayed true or something like that. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, what was the message? That you're going to get X amount of NIL dollars? And I'm all for the athletes being able to profit on what they do, because it is a $1 billion entertainment industry in which the NCAA makes a lot of money off the backs of these kids. So it's wrong to say that they shouldn't be able to profit. But on the other end of that, when it's being used for what it's being used for, which is nothing more than a recruiting tool at this point, it gets sad to see that it's kind of turned into this when a lot of people, saw it coming. And it's just, like I said, shame on the NCAA for not being able to get in front of it. And, with NIL and the transfer portal. So college football is truly the Wild West.
What was that thing they introduced? I saw a notification. They introduced something the other day about some thing for D1 schools. It's almost like a trust fund with NIL money.
Where the school,
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's the way as I understand it, I need to read more about it. It's the NCAA proposing it for like D1 schools, and it's basically the schools are paying NIL money through like a trust fund.
Well, I mean, honestly, anything is better than the collectives that these, people have come up with, the schools and stuff like that.
And we've talked about it too. Like, I just think it's a matter of time for the NCAA is not like running college football anymore, and the college football playoff is taking over. What does that look like? I don't know. I don't
Anything's
know.
Anything's as long as you get like a true, and it's moving towards this. It's more and more an NFL system than it ever has been. As long as there's a true commissioner or president or whatever you want to call them, somebody that makes the decisions and does better than Mark Emmert did for however long he was the NCAA president, and whoever the guy is now. So there needs to be order. There needs to be some rules restored back into this crazy nonsense that is becoming college football free agency. And the timeline of all this sucks, right? Because like you've got teams that are preparing for bowl games and teams that are preparing for the playoff and stuff like that, and you you've got to deal with these players telling you that they're going to, you know, be out, and they're leaving, you know, in the midst of all this prep, and you know, I can only imagine how hard it is for these coaches to manage all this player movement in and out during this prep time. And it's like, you know, I listened to somebody talk about it, and there's really no other timeline, because right now they're in between classes, and, you know, like it or not, whether we still want to acknowledge the fact that these kids are students, they still are. And there's still a school component that has to go with this, and that's registering for classes, getting admitted into these new schools and stuff like that. So there's all these different things that have to go into making these transfer decisions. So, you know, it sucks that now has to be part of the timeline, but you really hate that it has to happen now when the season's not even wrapped up. So, you know, it's become a full-time roster management job for these coaches to not only recruit and re-recruit the guys that are already on your team, but to know that you're going to have guys that are going to leave, and then to be able to go out and recruit the new guys that are in the portal in the midst of all this bowl prep. It's a mess, and it's only going to get worse, you know, as we get through all this stuff. So, yeah, it's quite ridiculous. But, you know, that's the new era of college football that we're in. And we get college football next year from EA sometime in the summer. So that's a positive. But yeah, there's a lot of player movement going on. I heard or saw on Twitter that Kyle McCord was meeting with Miami as well. So that would be an interesting situation there, given the fact that Ohio State's current top 2024 commit, Jeremiah Smith, has also been rumored to be flipping to Miami and Florida State for probably 2 months now. He has since, you know, put out plenty of messages that he is in no danger of flipping, but I guess we don't know anything until National Signing Day, which brings me to my next point. What the hell even is a letter of intent anymore? I don't really understand.
I mean, you can ask for
a letter of
you
intent.
can request your release from it.
Yeah. So,
like,
I mean,
and then the school looks like a douchebag if they don't release you from it. And
yeah. I mean, so, at some point though, the
paper doesn't mean anything.
No, and at some point the schools and the coaches are going to have to start sticking up for themselves, and it's like you don't want to put these kids in a bad situation, because, you know, as I've made the point before, all of this NIL and transfer nonsense, coaches get to just up and leave whenever they want, so the players should be granted an opportunity to do that at least once.
I know we're talking about football. That's a big reason why you're seeing a lot of the old guard in college basketball leave, like Roy Williams, Coach K, Jim Boeheim. Tom Izzo's next. It's only a matter of time. Yeah. Roy's on record saying he doesn't like how it operates now.
Yeah.
Like, I remember specifically, like, a week before he retired, that Walker Kessler kid told him he was leaving right after the day after the season ended. And Roy just doesn't like how, he just didn't like how it operated. And that's why I think it could. I don't know if it'll be that way for college football. It's a little bit different. I mean, Saban's not going to – I feel like Saban's going to die in Bryant-Denny Field or Bryant-Denny Stadium, Kirby Smart. I mean, those are they're the big-time college football coaches that navigate around this, and they have a way of still getting what they want. But, yeah, like you said, coaches are going to have – especially smaller schools, coaches are going to have to start sticking up for themselves. And it's a slippery slope, but, I mean, something's got to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's a situation that we created, we being the fans and players, and, you know, society as a whole develops and things move forward. And, you know, college football is never going to stay as squeaky clean and traditional as everybody once remembers it. But, you know, it is a shame to see some of the things that are happening. And then you mentioned, you know, the big time legendary college basketball coaches, and I think Nick Saban, you talk about a guy that has 7 national championships. He's done just about everything there is to do at Alabama and in college coaching. Who knows if he has a change of heart? You know, I can't think that this is any fun, really. I mean, you know, you have a new team almost every year. You look at Ohio State's roster as it stands right now, and there's a potential for 35 scholarship players to be gone after this year, given the draft and the transfer portal. So, you know, it gets trying to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying it kind of gets, in the last couple of years, it's been so many new players that, have just come in and stepped in. And, it's getting to that point where it's almost like watching baseball where you can't even really, figure out who's on what team now and who's playing for who. And yeah, I mean, it's just getting ridiculous.
I think the thing, though, is like it's the two, college basketball and college football. I think the talent gap has like shrunk a lot more in college basketball than college football. I mean, you still have your powerhouse, you still have your blue bloods and your powerhouses, but like that's more of a factor in football. I feel like, I mean, look at the college football playoff. There's at least two of the same teams that have been there every year.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, like, look what we said on the preview about we thought Bama was going to have a down year, but we said at the same time it wouldn't surprise us at all if they like had an incredible season, and look where they're at.
Yeah.
And I just think the talent gap is a lot smaller now in college basketball than football. I mean, look at all the upsets you see early in the season the past 2 years in basketball. Like you got UNCG walking into Arkansas and beating them, UNCW walking into Kentucky and beating Kentucky. Shout out UNCW and UNCG.
And Auburn losing to Appalachian State too. So I
can
think,
ECU complete the quadruple sweep this weekend against 7-1 Gamecocks in Greenville?
Basically, if that happens, we're saying that the North Carolina State school system basketball teams are better than the SEC teams. We don't make the rules. Just, facts are facts.
I mean, it's the hoop state.
It is.
That's a known.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, all that to say, that rambled a little bit, but yeah, the talent gap in college football, I think between, I mean, you got your Power 5 conferences, but I think after that, I mean, you do have an upset here and there during the regular season and in bowl games when a Power 5 school plays a Group of 5 school or something like that, or mid-major. I just think the talent gap in college football is still really big when you factor in the size of schools and just the powerhouses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take, a lot longer for that gap to shrink in college football. Those top of the, top 15 programs in the country are, the ones with the most money, and they're going to be the ones that can throw around NIL money the most. And unfortunately, those are the teams that are going to benefit from all
they have
this
better coaches too.
And they have better coaches, and so it's a bunch of different factors that all kind of morph into one and make college football what it is and what we're seeing today. So we're moving towards another development in college football, and that's a 12-team playoff next year. So a lot of teams are going to benefit from that. One of which being Florida State, which brings us to our next part of this conversation.
Hold on. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, go ahead.
Just keeping with the transfer thing. Let's make some predictions or wishes about where we would like to see guys go real quick. So I've told you through text, if I'm Ohio State, I put the absolute full court press on getting Cam Ward. I think he would be extremely dangerous with that team. You're going to lose Marv more than likely. I know there's rumors they've offered him the equivalent of his first year in the NFL money, which, I mean, that equates to about, I think JJ Watt tweeted, that equates to about $25 million. I don't see Ohio State.
Absolutely false, by the way. Yeah. Those rumors are completely false.
Yeah.
There's no way that Ohio State can put together an NIL package to get him $30 million.
You've told me, you're as diehard Ohio State fan, you've told me Ohio State's, like, they'll give out NIL, but they're pretty stingy about.
They won't throw around NIL money in the way that, some of the SEC schools in Miami will, and that's reigned true it's evident by the recruits that they've lost. KJ Bolden to Florida State, and a few other defensive ends and defensive linemen and other players like that. So Ohio State's not going to be able to do that.
And plus, I don't think Marv would stay anyway, even if that. I mean, he's going to go at the very worst top 3. Go right now. Like, you don't know what could happen next year. You might get hurt if you come back, and your stock could plummet. Go now.
Well, I would be lying to you if I told you that I wasn't holding out just a little bit of hope. You're likely going to lose Marv. I do think, and there is some intrigue with Cam Ward. I think he's an incredible athlete. He would add back to the offense what hasn't been there in a couple of years, and that's a true running threat at quarterback. He can throw the ball, he can run the ball, so he can beat you in both ways. There has been some reported interest between Cam Ward and Ohio State, especially on the heels of the news that Dante Moore is favored to go to Michigan. So there's
I saw that too.
There's some I don't know how much urgency there really is with Ohio State to add a guy like Cam Ward. I've heard through just the other stuff that I've listened to and read that Cam is not the number one on the list for Ohio State. I think the number one there was I can't remember his name, but there's been a lot of intrigue there with there's been a lot of intrigue there with Dylan Gabriel and Riley Leonard and stuff like that too. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see which one of these. And I mentioned earlier Aiden Childs, the Oregon State transfer, already choosing Michigan State. So that's one of those top quarterbacks in the portal off the board already.
Is it the kid from Kansas State?
I can't
Howard.
remember. Yeah, maybe. I can't remember. I do have him on the list here too. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. And you run the risk of hurting your future quarterback recruiting, depending on who you take here. So Cam Ward would be the obvious choice here because he's only got 1 year of eligibility left. You don't want to run off guys like Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenholz, who is another guy that's highly touted, that's in that quarterback room already. And then down the line next year with Aaron Nolan. So you don't really want to screw things up just by bringing somebody in the short term. I do think that Devin Brown is good enough to play at Ohio State. He posted an interesting picture on Twitter yesterday, with Viking ships on fire, with the adage of burn the boats. There's no other choice but to stay and make things work and get the job done. So they fired up Ohio State Twitter last night in a time where they kind of needed it. Yeah, it's a bad quarterback number, but I don't know. I would be happy with Cam Ward. I don't necessarily think that Cam would just kind of step in and take those reins. I think that Ryan would make that a quarterback battle. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
Egbuka's gone too, probably. Is he a senior?
No, he's a junior. So he's in Marvin's class. So he's got eligibility left, and there's not really a definite answer on what he's going to do either. So it'd be nice to keep Emeka, to go with the young receivers that they have in that room, and then obviously if things hold true, you'll add Jeremiah Smith to that, which he is an absolute dynamic player.
No, he was a freshman last year, wasn't he?
No. Travion is a junior. He has an opportunity to come back as well. A lot of speculation is that he might be leaning that way with Chip Trainum entering the portal. Chip was the second leading rusher for Ohio State this year behind Travion Henderson. Mine Williams was the guy that was in the room. He is declared for the draft. So a lot of people thought that Trey would end up going and that Chip Trainum would be the guy in that room next year. But it looks like, obviously, with Chip entering the portal, the thought is that Travion is expected to come back for a senior season at Ohio State. A guy that's dealt with a lot of injury since his freshman year, but a dynamic playmaker when he's healthy, and a guy who I truly believe can be the best running back in college football when he is healthy. So, you're going to have weapons. So whoever does step in and play at quarterback next year, we'll have some young receivers, but talented receivers, and there's no doubt in my mind that the offense will be okay.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think Kyle McCord's going to go?
I don't know. I mean, I saw the Miami interest. That would be an interesting thing.
You think he stays in the Big Ten?
I don't know. The rumor behind all that stuff was, or how it went, was Ryan Day gave a press conference on Sunday, basically saying that he's going to open up the quarterback competition again. That Kyle was not, guaranteed to be the starter in 2024, and Kyle's dad, most notably, did not like that. And there's a lot of belief that Kyle's dad was the one that kind of made that decision and pushed Kyle to that decision to enter the portal. And I don't blame Kyle for leaving one bit. There's a lot that comes with being the starting quarterback at Ohio State. When you look at the last three that have been the starter at Ohio State, that's 3 Heisman finalists. So there's a lot to live up to. There's a big expectation when you're the quarterback at Ohio State. And, Kyle had a great season I think he 3,200 yards passing or something like that with 26 touchdowns and 6 picks. So, by all standards, and I think a top 15 QBR in the country too. So by all standards, that's a really good statistical season. But when you really dissect it and look at the way that he played and the mistakes that he made and when he made them, and especially in the Michigan game, and what stands out to me is A, you can't call the Michigan game just another game because it's not, and B, the last 8 minutes of that game after Ohio State scored, Travion Henderson scored to make it a 4-point game. The last 8 minutes of the game, Kyle was sitting beside Marv, stone faced on the bench, no energy, no leadership, and that's a problem. And so, you look at that, and coupled with everything else that happened and the lack of development that you really saw throughout the year from him, I think it's, in the best interest of both parties if he moves on. Ohio State's going to be fine either way. So if you add Cam Ward, I think, that is definitely a plus for Ohio State. How that would turn out for the recruiting and how that would shake up that room, you don't really know. So we'll have to wait and see, how the chips fall. But I have to think it's going to be soon in the next week or so that we're going to see some of these decisions made. So I think Kyle McCord probably ends up. I've seen a rumor of Notre Dame. I've seen a rumor of Miami. I've seen a rumor.
I've heard Riley Leonard's all but a lock to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I've seen that as well. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Best of luck to you.
I do know one thing.
I mean, I want to say this before we move on from Kyle McCord. Great kid, it seems like, might not have had exactly what it took to play at Ohio State, but wish you the best of luck, man. It's not an easy job. So, to be able to do what you did with the circumstances that you walked into, commend you for that. But, time to move on.
Yeah. I do know one thing. It's not – I know they got a new coach at Mike Elko, but it's not too happy times in Aggie land right now with all these dudes decommitting, flipping.
I mean, they had two
team in
top 100 defensive linemen.
Yeah, I know a certain team in Baton Rouge that needs to be all over these kids who are from Louisiana decommitting and transferring.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Jair Brown, a big-time cornerback recruit.
Oh yeah, from New Orleans.
That was in the top 100 when he committed to Ohio
That's shocking.
State.
I mean, I've never heard of the dude. That's shocking that from Louisiana that Ohio State got some dude from Louisiana, because you figure guys from Louisiana they either go to LSU or they go somewhere in Texas or stay in the SEC. So that's, good on them.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. Just kind of unfortunate the way that things shook out, and adding Davison Igbinosun in the portal last year didn't make it any easier for Jair to get on the field, and Davison played well, and Jordan Hancock played well, and then when Denzel Burke went down with that injury, Jermaine Matthews, true freshman, stepped in and he earned freshman All-American honors. So it's a crowded room, and Jair made the decision that was best for him. So LSU would be getting a good one if they were able to turn that one around and get him home.
Yeah, we can now. Sorry to hijack your next topic. But
no, all good. So
move along to, did the committee get it right?
So as we mentioned, the changes in college football and the way things are going, as everybody knows, next year the college football playoff is going to 12 teams. That'll make a lot of teams happy, most notably Florida State, who is a pissed off bunch of Seminoles. And, this is a tough conversation to have. I don't really think it's as cut and dry as a lot of people may think. And I think, there's a reason for that. The committee has their, criteria or guidelines or whatever you want to call it to pick these 4 teams. And, the Power 5 coaches and conference commissioners and everybody knew going into this 10 years ago when they made the college football playoff that, it was going to be 4 spots for 5 Power 5 conference champions. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, the committee moved the goalpost several times throughout this whole, process. When it was 4 teams, they lean on strength of schedule one year. They lean on common opponents the next year. They lean on head-to-head matchups the year after. And, it sucks that it went down the way it did for Florida State. And I think, if Jordan Travis was healthy, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Mm-hmm. And that just is the unfortunate side effect to his injury. It's the unfortunate thing that had to happen with Bama getting hot at the right time and beating the number 1 team in the country. I don't really think that there was any reason that Georgia should have been in. They didn't win their conference championship, nor did they really look as impressive as Georgia has the last 2 years. So I think as soon as they lost, they were pretty much eliminated from the conversation. And it really came down to Texas, Alabama, and Florida State and what to do with those 3 teams. And so as it sits right now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know the 4 teams are Michigan, Alabama, Texas, and Washington. And I think, Washington, being that they looked so impressive throughout the year, they finished undefeated. They win the conference championship, beat Oregon twice. They handled business the way they had to. Texas, only 1 loss to Oklahoma. Oklahoma didn't end up having as good of a season as they could have, but, albeit a ranked matchup there that Texas loses. However, they beat Alabama. Alabama only losses to Texas. Texas wins the Big 12. They finish with 1 loss. They start playing very well down the stretch, as did Alabama, outside of a few snafus. They could have lost at Auburn. Took a miracle to win that game. But, when you really
That's the
dissect
real
it,
asshole in all this, if you're a Florida State fan, that DB for Auburn.
Yes. If that DB knocks that ball down, again, we're not having this conversation at all. So I think given how Alabama looked against Auburn, given how, and now granted, I know they ended up winning in a blowout, and I know they, had dealt with the Jordan Travis injury and stuff like that. But given how Florida State looked against that North Alabama team in that early part of that game, they did not look very good. They did not look good against Louisville. And I think, that people always point to, well, Ohio State got in with Cardale Jones at quarterback. The difference is Ohio State beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship 59-0.
Yeah.
Florida State did not do that. It was It was what, 3-0 at
6.
halftime.
It was 3-3
at half. 3-3 at half. Yeah, that was just
and it was very hard to watch
performance. And I understand that defense wins championships. I get it. But in this situation, there's no way. Florida State's defense is elite. And I don't want to take anything away from Florida State's defense. But objectively, even if Florida State were to get that second string quarterback back by the time the college football playoff rolls around, objectively, you cannot watch both the ACC championship game and the SEC championship game and tell me that Florida State is a better team right now than Alabama. You can't. And like it or not, the objective from the committee is to pick the best 4 teams. And I think they got it right.
I'm going to preface this by saying if I was a Florida State fan, I would be absolutely furious.
And I agree.
There's nothing you could tell me that would convince me that Florida State should be in. I'm not a Florida State fan. I think the committee got it right. And my reason alone is that, like, you know what rules the world, Chris? Money. That's what this all came down to. No one can tell me differently. Money and ratings. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what it is. It sucks. It's bullshit. And that should make you even more mad if you're a Florida State fan. But that's the world we live in. Mm-hmm. Alabama and Michigan is ratings and money. Like, they saw the committee, the sponsors, what ESPN saw dollar signs when they saw that matchup. Texas and Washington. I know Washington's not a traditional power, but that's a big time matchup. The potential for Bama and Texas, or Bama and Michigan, Michigan and Texas, the national championship, dollar signs. That's what it all comes down to. It sucks. And I do think you made a good point. You texted me this, if there was no end in sight for the 4-team playoff, I would be on the side of like Florida State should be in, because you're setting a very bad precedent that when you say the games matter. And to Florida State's credit, they scheduled hard games. They beat LSU. They honestly had made Jaden Daniels, who's probably going to win the Heisman this Saturday, he had a good game, but it was still his worst game of the season. It was the first game of the season, but still. They went to Clemson. I know Clemson was down this year. They went to Clemson and beat Clemson. They did everything they were supposed to do. And like you said, if there was still a 4-team playoff going forward, I think you have a legitimate reason, an even more legitimate reason to be mad. But when you think about next year, like, okay, I know this sucks next year, but next year you get in, like, because you won your conference.
And I stand by that. I truly believe that if the committee had to stand on what they've made, I think most important, which is go undefeated and win your conference championship, then I think Florida State is in regardless, because they would have to adhere to that again next year. And they couldn't set that precedent to leave an undefeated conference champion out if there's another 14 playoff scenario next year. I think it was just with Jordan Travis's injury and the move to a 12-team playoff next year, it was just an unfortunate timing and unfortunate circumstance for Florida State, and they fell victim to it.
And look, you want to prove them wrong? Beat Georgia. You're not going to. I'm telling you, like, no Florida State fan can look me in the eye and say if they'd have got in over Bama, they wouldn't beat Michigan. They wouldn't have beat, like, Michigan would have probably made it a game. I'm not going to lie to you, but Florida State wasn't winning.
And I think another telling sign to this, and again, I understand that it was the third string quarterback in his first start. He had however many reps going into the game. They averaged 4 yards a play in that ACC championship game.
Yeah, that Louisville team wasn't that good.
No, Michigan's defense is really good.
Yeah,
and you're not going to be able to move the ball or score on that Michigan defense if you're getting 4 yards of play. I mean, you got to have some level of ability to be explosive and make plays. And Florida State
Michigan has very good corners. They're going to shut down Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
shut them down, but they're going to limit them very much.
Yeah. It was just a recipe for disaster. And, you know, it's a shame. It is a shame that it happened the way that it did. But, you know, you got to look at it from the standpoint of next year. This, you know, doesn't matter. And
if I saw this, someone posed this thing, and I wouldn't be against it because, like I said, if I was a Florida State fan, if I was Mike Norvell, I would be furious. And I really do feel bad for that team because, I mean, they did, like I said, they did everything they were supposed to. They played a Power 5 conference. They scheduled hard games. They won their conference. You really want to stick it to the college football playoff? After the national anthem, in the – what are they playing in? The Orange Bowl?
Orange Bowl, yeah.
Yeah. Don't go on the field. Make ESPN scramble to fill, like, as far as I know, there's no penalty if they do that. I'd probably have to dig into it more.
Lord, could you imagine?
No, someone posed that. Go through all the warm-ups. As soon as that national anthem is done, walk in the locker room.
I couldn't even imagine what that would look like, what they would do. I mean, good
That's
Lord, you don't want to do it. Yeah, it's a
a
lot of money, and you don't want to do that to the fans. You don't want to, you know, to the people that made their way there and stuff like that. It's not, wouldn't be fair to the fans that did that. Yeah, from Florida State, yeah, but from Georgia, man.
Even if I dropped $250 on a ticket,
boy,
I'd applaud it.
That'd be something else. I couldn't even imagine the tailspin that would happen from the media if they did
ESPN would shit their pants.
Yeah,
or whoever's. I assume that game's going to be on ABC. I think the Orange Bowl is always on ABC or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think the college football or New Year's Six have a contract with.
They all okay.
Right, yeah, I think so. So yeah, that's
just, you know. While we're on the topic of sports networks, so the Big Ten's getting CBS next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the SEC going to Fox? Is that
ESPN? ESPN. Okay. So SEC is on ESPN.
So no more Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt for the Big Ten?
No. Big Ten is NBC, Fox, and ABC.
CBS.
Yes.
So you
CBS,
guys will get Brad
Fox,
Nessler and Gary.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad Nessler's the man.
Yeah, he is, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. But the first game of the year, Ohio State at Indiana, neither of them seemed excited to be there at all. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And obviously they'll get some.
Gary's just upset he can't fillet Alabama 6 times a year.
That's true. No, so we will continue to get Gus and Joel, even though there's a lot of people that have gotten tired of Joel Klatt's shtick. But I still think they're the best booth in college football right now. Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, unfortunate the way that all that happened with the college football playoff, but you know, we're moving to 12 teams next year. So, you know, we're on to on to better things as far as that goes. That's going to be exciting, man. And there have been
You have to wait
a
for
lot
our
of
picks next pod.
yeah. We'll get into a big bowl game, New Year's Six in college football playoff preview in the next pod next week. So be on the lookout for that. There will be a lot there. So before we wrap up this college football talk, we'll talk about the Heisman situation as it stands right now. The 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy are Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr., Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., and LSU quarterback. And in the opinion of this show, the rightful winner of the college football Heisman Trophy, quarterback Jaden Daniels from LSU.
I was waiting to see, I watched the Pac-12 championship, and I thought if someone just has an absolute game and this one wins, I thought Jaden's chances would go just disappear. But I mean, they both had good games, but neither was transcendent in my opinion. So I don't see a situation where Jaden doesn't win it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just objectively look across the year, and you've said this, and I agree, man. If LSU had any semblance of a defense, they would be in this college football playoff picture. And I hate it for Jaden that it's getting overshadowed the way that it has, given the losses that they've had and stuff like that. But that dude is a baller. I think, you look at
shot himself up the draft order too, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that given what, has transpired and obviously the quarterback play that led Marv to the numbers that he had and, what those look like. And I just don't think that there's any reason why Jaden Daniels doesn't walk away with this trophy.
Yeah. I mean, like you said a few weeks ago when we first started talking about this, the Heisman, if you take that player, it's an individual award. It's not a team award. If you take that player off the team, what do they look like? Mm-hmm. I can count 3 games off the top of my head where Jaden literally had to bail his defense out to win a game.
Yeah. And on the same token,
lost games because of his defense.
Yeah. And on the same token, you take a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. off the field for Ohio State, and you look at the rest of the receiver room and what going into the season looked like the best receiver room in college football. You look at the production that was there from the rest of those who weren't named Marvin Harrison, and the drop-off is tremendous. And it was
which is surprising given,
I wouldn't have thought going into the season that it would have looked like that. And, obviously what Michael Penix Jr. has been able to do speaks for itself. Washington was electric for a lot of the season. They have not looked very good in the last month and a half. And then, you look at Oregon and what Bo Nix has been able to do, which is impressive nonetheless. But, Oregon did not play a very tough schedule outside of the Pac-12. And, I think that's going to hurt Bo Nix's chance there. Obviously, the 2 losses to Washington, I think, hurt him and kind of eliminate him from that conversation as well. So I think it's really, realistically a 2-man race there for that Heisman Trophy. And it's between Michael Penix Jr. and Jaden Daniels. But I think if you give me the vote, I would vote for Jaden Daniels in that situation. But shout out to Marvin Harrison Jr. This is now the 6th. I think it's the 6th Heisman Trophy finalist in the last 4 years for Ohio State. Going back to Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud, Chase Young, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I'm forgetting one.
Did you say already?
I think so, maybe, but I might be forgetting one. But shout out to Ohio State in that offense for being able to, in the defense, for being able to put, that many Heisman Trophy finalists in the last 4 or 5 years. So, Desmond Howard, watch your mouth when you address Marvin Harrison Jr. this week. Just want to put that
I can't believe he got 3 out of the 4 right.
I don't even want to talk about him. I really don't.
Right,
I think that's the exciting happenings here in the college football world. It's been a wild season, and there's going to be a grand finale here in the coming weeks with the New Year's Six games as well as the college football.
We got Army. We got Army Navy this weekend.
Oh, yes, we do. Go Army, beat Navy. God bless the troops. God bless America. But I had to choose Army there for my brother Vince on the Buckeye show. Army veteran.
No, so I'm indifferent. Father-in-law was in the Navy, so
yeah, is what it is. Everybody wins. Doesn't matter.
Go USA.
Go USA. That's the better answer here. So with that, that should be a fun game to watch this weekend if you're jonesing for some college football. But you'll have to wait a couple more, I think a week or so before the bowl games get going. So if you're a degenerate gambler, you'll have a lot on your plate, seeing as this is the March Madness, if you will, for the college football season. So anyways, that's the college football talk. We'll get into the NFL conversation here. I think both of us went 9-4 last week.
We didn't have to spend 30 minutes before this show, folks, figuring out what our records are.
We did not. So we're growing as a unit, which is good. I, with that 9-4 record, have gotten up to 107-88 for the season as far as my picks go. What say you, Rostradamus?
I also went 9-4, like you said. I'm up to 120-75 on the year.
All right. So, without further ado, take it away, buddy.
All right. Well, we got a doozy here tonight on Thursday Night Football. What was the Monday night game this past week? Wasn't it Bengals and Jaguars?
Yes, Bengals Jags. Yep. The Jake Browning game.
Yeah, and who was the backup for
Jacksonville?
Jags? Yeah.
His name escapes me, but he actually didn't play that bad.
Yeah. Well, if that was the shot, this game's the chaser. We got Bailey, Zappy, Zap, whatever you want to call him, versus Mitch Trubisky tonight. Pats at Steelers. Steelers favored -5. This one is going to be at.
That has to be on the defense alone. Like, that's got to be because TJ Watt is breathing.
Yeah, this is going to be
5 points.
Yeah, this is going to be as ugly a game as we've seen all year, probably. Give me the Steelers, though. The Patriots are abysmal. Like, their defense is still solid, but yeah, scoring is going to be in short supply tonight. Give me Pittsburgh.
Without being disrespectful, I've seen it happen.
God,
I'm gonna take the Patriots in this. I think they're gonna
behind the steel curtain.
I think they're gonna be able to turn over Mitch Trubisky. I'm taking the Patriots.
All right, your bold pick of the week. Coming out hot, Chris Chapman.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, and then next up we got an NFC South matchup: Bucks at Falcons. Bucks got the win at home against the Panthers last week, and the Falcons got the win on the road at the Jets. Atlanta's favored -2.5 in this one. Desmond offense was a chore for Atlanta last week, as expected. I mean, Desmond Ritter's seems like he's getting a little bit better, but he's still a very big work in progress. That being said, this one being in Atlanta, I'll take the Falcons being at home, riding that run game of Algier and Bijan Robinson against Baker and the Bucks. The Bucks almost let the Panthers come back and win last week. That is an indictment alone of your team.
Yeah, I will take the Falcons as well. The Bucks had a bit of a hot start, but I think they exposed.
But shout out to Mike Evans, man. He's had a 1,000-yard season every year he's been in the league. 11 years.
Actually incredible, and especially given the quarterbacks that he's had to work with outside of Tom Brady. You're looking at Jameis Winston, Baker Mayfield, and there might be another one in there other than Tom. But yeah, shout out. That's super impressive. But I'll take the Falcons.
Mike Glennon, that was who it was.
Yes, yep. From QBU.
Yep. Jesus. Can I just say I saw a rumor that LSU was potentially going to play State in a bowl game, and I was hoping for that so bad. Then again,
why?
Because I would love just to mop up the floor with them. Then again, though, Jaden probably isn't going to play, so would have had to deal with them saying, "Oh, we've been an SEC team for the next 10 years."
To get to 10-3, that would be a nightmare.
Yep. Well, that's who they are. Enough about those yahoos. Next up, we got Colts at Bengals. Colts coming off the win against the Titans last week by 3. And then Bengals coming off the surprising win. His name's Jake Browning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Jake Browning
Washington
show.
quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Him.
Mm-hmm.
The Jake Browning show on Monday night against the Jags. Cincinnati, being at home, they're favored -1.5 in this one. But I'm going to take Indy. I really like Indy. I like the coach, Shane Steichen. I like the way they're playing. I like the way Gardner Minshew's rallying the team. They're leaning on Jonathan Taylor in that run game. They've got solid receivers. Their defense is playing well. Give me Indy.
Yeah, I'll take Indy as well. I like what I saw out of Gardner Minshew. Dancing in the locker room after that win, and rightfully so, man. He's a gamer, and he'll do anything it takes to win the game. And from the jump, man, from earlier this season when he was brought into Indy, and they were talking about the decision to go with Anthony Richardson off the bat, and he said, I know it's his team, and I'm here to do whatever it takes to support him and do what's right for the team. So love what I see out of Gardner Minshew. Great teammate, great leader, and somebody that the Colts needed in this situation given the injury to Anthony Richardson. So yeah, I'm on the Colts with you as well.
Yeah, they're tied with Houston right behind the Jaguars for AFC South. Is shaping up to be an interesting one.
Unreal.
And then continuing with the AFC South, we got the Jaguars going to Cleveland to play the Brownies. Both teams coming off losses. Cleveland to the Rams, and then Jacksonville, like we just talked about on Monday night, to the Bengals. Cleveland favored -3 in this one. I'm assuming Flacco's still going to start, even though DTR is healthy.
I have not heard one way or another.
Regardless,
sway my decision. However,
I think regardless, I think Trevor Lawrence is probably going to be out this week. It's a high ankle sprain, so there's a chance he may play, but I don't think they'll rush him back on a short week like that. So yeah, give me the Browns in that defense at home to win.
Yeah, and this is going to be a game where the Browns defense is going to need to bounce back from a abysmal fourth quarter performance in a game in which was a 1-point game in that fourth quarter last week against the Rams before the Browns just absolutely blundered it away in the fourth quarter. Joe Flacco did not have a bad game. He was 50% passing, over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, I believe. They have to get more out of the running game, though. Next to nothing out of Kareem Hunt, and I think a little bit less of nothing out of Jerome Ford. So they've got to get something out of the run game. David Njoku has to stop dropping the ball. He leads the league in drops, which is infuriating after the Hard Knocks issue where he didn't want to go catch balls on the gun after practice. That's neither here nor there, but the defense needs a little bit of a bounce back game, and I think they'll get it against the Jaguars team without Trevor Lawrence. So I will again pick the Browns, but they are 1 loss away from really being on my shit list as far as these picks go. But this is a game, if you want to stick in the wild card picture, you have to win this game. So
they play the Bears next week, so maybe not be too hasty.
Yeah, give me the Browns.
All right, and then next up, we got the Texans at the Jets. Texans beat the Broncos last week, held off a late comeback by them in the fourth quarter, last seconds of the fourth quarter too. And then you got the Jets, lost at home to the Falcons last week. Zach Wilson is going to be the starter this week. Not sure he wants to by the reports we're hearing. But, hey, he's the starter this week. But I picked the Texans last week, and for the first time this year picking them, they won. See if the trend continues. Give me Houston -3.5 in this one on the road.
Yeah, I'll take Houston as well. CJ Stroud just continues to play well, standing on business back there. He got a guy in his face, and he's going to stand in there. Didn't throw a punch, didn't push, did nothing. He just stood in there and let him know that he was here. So Aaron Rodgers came out on the Pat McAfee show in defense of Zach Wilson. And kind of condemned whoever inside the building let that out to the media, whatever conversation was had, whatever situations going on with Zach Wilson and stuff. That's such an interesting, weird situation that the Jets are in right now. But yeah, nothing really good coming out of that offense. So I will pick the Texans as well.
And next up, we got the Rams at Baltimore. Baltimore was off last week. Rams, like we talked about, coming off a win against the Browns. Baltimore favored -7.5 in this one. Gave Baltimore a week to get healthy. I know they were starting to get healthy, but they should get some guys back from injury this week. And the Rams don't really know what to make of them. this year. They're very hot and cold. But yeah, Baltimore is one of the better teams in the league. Argument could be made they're one of the best team in the AFC. I picked them to be in the Super Bowl. I'm going to pick the Ravens at home in this one. Keep Mitchell the ball.
Yeah, I don't feel like the Rams have enough to get this game done on the road. If it were in SoFi, I'd maybe feel a little bit differently about it. But I don't think they have enough to get it done in Baltimore. So I'll pick the Ravens as well. And as you mentioned, the Ravens needed a week to get healthy and get some guys on the training table and treatment and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll take the Ravens in that one too.
And next up, NFC North matchup: Detroit at Chicago. Lions favored -3.5 in this one. Lions coming off winning against the Saints. They were winning pretty handily for a while and then let the Saints claw back in it and make it interesting at the end. And then the Bears, did they play last week? They did not. So yeah, Bears coming off a bye week. And Bears have been playing a little bit better with Justin Fields back, but I think Detroit's going to be too much for them. Give me the Lions on the road.
Yeah, the Lions are due for, to keep going and keep building their momentum. And I don't see the Bears having enough to get that one done. So I'm going to side with you again, and I'll pick the Lions.
And next up, NFC South matchup: Panthers at the Saints. Panthers coming off a loss to the Bucs last week. Saints coming off the loss that we just talked about. The Lions. Jameis Winston most likely going to be the starter. He's going to get a lot of people involved: receivers, running backs, defenders, fans. With those bombs he throws. I think he's due for one interception, but the Panthers are an absolute train wreck. So yeah, give me the Saints in New Orleans.
Yeah, it called me crazy, but I like the Saints more with Jameis Winston than I do with Derek Carr.
I agree.
So I mean, Jameis
gives you a little bit of energy.
Yeah, I've made my thoughts known about Derek Carr. He's been nothing but a petulant little child this year, throwing temper tantrums on the field and all kinds of different weird stuff. So yeah, I like the Saints with Jameis again more than I do with Derek. And as you mentioned, there's nothing really good about the Panthers right now. So yeah, I'll take the Saints as well.
I'm more interested in who's going to be the coach. The season's a wash.
Good point.
Yep. Then next up, we got the Vikings at the Raiders. Vikings coming back down to earth a little bit. See what I did there with their astronaut at quarterback?
Yes, that's very good.
Yeah, Vikings at Raiders. Vikings, they didn't play last week either. And then the Raiders, I thought they played last week.
Also did not play.
We got two teams coming off buys. Minnesota actually favored -3 in this one, but I know I think the Raiders lost. They lost on Black Friday, got blown out by the Dolphins right before their bye. But I like what I've seen out of them since they fired McDaniels and Antonio Pierce has taken over. So yeah, give me the Raiders at home.
Yeah, I mean, I just the Josh Dobbs story is a great story. He's had a lot of success, and there have been a lot of people, Browns fans that have said, "Oh, we had Josh Dobbs and we traded him and blah 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 blah." Yeah, well, Josh Dobbs came, back down to earth hard, and I think I think you've gotten basically what you're going to get out of Josh. Nothing against him. I mean, he's a great quarterback, great guy. But I think. And an astronaut, if you have not heard. So, I agree with you. I like what they've been able to do in Vegas since they've kind of changed things up. Their offense looks, brand new, and they look like they have a renewed sense of confidence on both sides of the ball. So I would go with the Raiders in that as well.
Then next up, we got an NFC West matchup, Seahawks at 49ers. Seahawks coming off a shootout loss last Thursday to the Cowboys in Jerry World. And the 49ers coming off a dominant win over the team neck and neck with them at the top of the NFC. And the Eagles. Niners at home favored -10.5 in this one. Big line. The Seahawks are a quality team. But yeah, regardless, giving the Niners in this one, they're firing on all cylinders the past few weeks after kind of going through a little rough patch there. Screens and crossers, baby. Brock Purdy's bread and butter. Formula for an MVP season, apparently. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I don't know many quarterbacks who couldn't succeed with that. And Kyle Shanahan calling your plays. So yeah, give me the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, basically don't turn the ball over and you're in good shape, right? I mean, that's the one thing that you have to avoid. Otherwise, your weapons are going to do what they do. And and weapons on offense, weapons on defense. I mean, that defensive line and the linebackers and the secondary. I mean, it's
Shout out to
unbelievable.
former Panther Steve Wilkes in that defense.
Yeah,
you should be the head coach, Wilksey.
It's unbelievable what they've been able to do. How kind of off they looked in that little down part of the season, but they've been able to turn it back on. So I do like the 49ers, but I like the Seahawks to cover. I think they'll be able to, with DK playing the way he is, and Jackson Smith and Jigba getting more involved in the offense every week and making play after play.
Turn Duron Bland into burnt toast last week.
Yeah. I mean, that catch and run was unbelievable. I mean, it's freaky for DK to be that big and be able to move like that.
And I'm not a Seahawks fan, but if I was, I would advocate those throwbacks to be my new jerseys
they're so forward. Fire. The helmet, the jersey, it's a incredible combination. Shout out Son Alexander.
49ers. And then next up, we got a rematch of a couple playoff matchups over the last few years. Bills at Chiefs. Bills were off last week too, I believe. And the Chiefs lost to Chris's go-to pick the past few weeks. Smarter than me, the Packers. Chiefs are at home this one, favored -1.5. I don't like what I've seen under the Bills right now. I especially don't like what their head coach teaches them behind the scene. I don't know if you've seen the report that came out. I hope to God it's not true. Apparently, let me make sure I say this correctly.
Oh, boy.
There's a report that Sean McDermott used the 9/11 terrorist attacks as a metaphor on how to build team camaraderie in a team meeting. He cited the hijackers as a group of people who are all able to get on the same page to orchestrate attacks to perfection. I really hope this isn't true. That's
yeah. All right. Well,
like you just think he was sitting there watching it in real time, like those guys are organized.
Yeah, that's wild. I would hope to God that. Yeah. Well,
hopefully not. Regardless, I don't like what I've seen out of the Bills anyway. So give me the Chiefs at home.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if Miss Swift is in the building.
Yeah, Chiefs once again, though, a team that seems like they've got some things to work through as well. But yeah, in this situation, the Bills, I think if they lose this game, are at risk of being under 500. Am I correct in that? Are they 6-6 right now?
You are correct, sir.
Yeah, so that's rough waters for the Bills, who going into this year were, by all accounts, still most people's favorite in that division, even with the addition of Aaron Rodgers for the Jets. So yeah, it's tough scenes for what the Bills have been going through this year. But I will take the Chiefs in this game as well.
All right, and then next up, an AFC West matchup: Broncos at Chargers. Broncos coming off the loss to the Texans last week. Chargers coming off an absolute barn burner win, 6-0 against the Patriots. The Chargers tried to Charger last week. They tried everything in their power to lose that game. They're favored -2.5 in this one. I refuse to pick the Chargers. Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, it's that was a tough look. I looked at the score of that game and I saw the final and I was like, good God almighty. That is bad football all the way around. However, the Broncos are who we thought they were, and they came back down to earth last week because they stink. Give me the Chargers. I think I put them on my shit list a couple weeks ago.
Hypocrite.
However, this is a numbers game, John Ross. And I'm going.
You're right. You're not wrong. Numbers don't lie.
Russell Wilson does.
Yeah. He lies about where he went to college.
Yeah, that place doesn't exist. Whole pack of Badgers.
Wisconsin State. Idiot. I'm just. All right. Horrible. And then next up, probably the game of the week, Sunday Night Football. Eagles getting back-to-back game of the weeks in prime time. NFC East matchup, Eagles at Jerry World to play the Cowboys. big game for both teams. Eagles trying to bounce back from the loss last week to 49ers and keep pace or keep a hold of the number one spot in the NFC East. Cowboys, I believe if they win this game, I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is because they would both beat each other. I'm assuming it's points or something at that point, but they would be tied for first, the Eagles, if they win this game. We talked about it last week. The Cowboys have last week was their first against Seahawks was their first win against a team with a winning record. See if they can keep it going this week. This being in Dallas, I know I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, but I know Jalen Hurts is a little bit banged up right now. Their defense is not playing very well right now, so give me the Cowboys and Jerry World.
Yeah, I think that's the deciding factor here for me as well, is the fact that this game is in Jerry World. I don't, now granted, Jalen Hurts before last week was able to get 2 really big wins in late game situations, and he battled for those. But I don't necessarily think that I mean, obviously you want to be tested and win games like that, but I think seeing the way that they lost last week, I think showed, the cracks in the foundation that are there are real. And I think that they do have some issues. And I know Jalen's banged up and, as you mentioned, the defense isn't playing very well, and they're going to have to play well against an offense that can move the ball. They can score points and it can get out of hand in a hurry. I'll take the Cowboys
this game. I do think Dak could lose this game on his own, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And Philly's defense is good enough to go out there and turn them over, 3-4 times. So if he does turn the ball over 3 or 4 times via the passing attack, that will be his 10th interception in a season where he said he wasn't going to do that. So something to look out for there. I'll pick the Cowboys too.
Yeah, the Eagles have playmakers on defense. If they can get that right, they'll be in good shape. Plus, they just signed Shaq Leonard. I know he's been kind of banged up, but if he can be half the player he was before that, that's a scary thought in the middle of that defense for Philly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, regardless, give me the Cowboys in this one. Yep. And then next up, first of 2 Monday Night Football games. You got the Green Bay Packers playing at the Giants to play Vinny Capicilli and the G-Men. Tommy DeVito, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Giants were off last week. Packers coming off the win against the Chiefs last week in prime time. Or what's that? Regardless, they beat the Chiefs. Packers favor -6.5 in this one. I'm gonna hop on the cheese train. Give me the Packers. I like what I'm seeing out of Jordan Love. 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions his last 3 games. Packers are starting to play like they were at the beginning of the year. So yeah, give me Green Bay.
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. I was also going to pull
not to mention the same stat.
Yeah, that's true. I was also going to pull that same Jordan Love stat out of my hat as well, but you beat me to it. Good on you, sir. But yeah, I mean, Green Bay is a team that is young, I think, in a lot of spots, especially spots that matter. Receiver being one of them. Aaron Jones is finally, kind of starting to get into a groove as well. So I like the Packers, and I like the way that Jordan Love's been able to play. So I will take them as well over a not very good Giants team.
The New York Gabagool Man. And then next up, we got last Monday Night Football game, Titans at Dolphins. Titans coming off the loss to the Colts last week. And then the Dolphins, I thought they played too.
Beat the shit out of the Commanders.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They beat the Commanders. Naturally, we both said we're never picking the Commanders again. They don't play this week, but if they did, I wouldn't pick them. Yeah, give me the Dolphins in this one. They're favored -13. Tyreek Hill, I think he needs 500 or what are they? Let's see. Dolphins are 9-3, so there's 5 more games left. Tyreek Hill needs 500 or so more yards to have a 2,000-yard season. I'd bank on him getting that. He might get 200 in this game. Give me the Fins at home.
Yeah, I'll take the Fins as well. They might cover that score by halftime if they're not careful there. So yeah, I'll take the Fins in that one too.
Yeah, that's it for our NFL slate this week. Week 14. Well, coming up on the last week of the season quick. Also, I mentioned before the show that I had an idea. Here's my idea. I got to thinking earlier.
And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if they got rid of this horrendous Pro Bowl, whatever they want to do, flag football game, and
Yes.
replaced it with something a little bit better? And I thought to myself, how would you make that weekend better? And then I got to thinking about the Senior Bowl, and I got to thinking about, some of that stuff. And then, I had the idea of, would it be cool, or would it be like, something different to change it up if you took like the college all-stars for the draft eligibles and you put them on the field against this year's rookie class in the NFL, the top performing rookies from this current season's NFL rookie, crop of players, and you take those two teams and you put them head to head. Do you think is that I thought that was a pretty good idea. B, do you think the college kids would have a chance to beat the NFL rookies? And would that be a compelling thing to watch?
No, that's a really cool idea. My only question was the thing that I think would be the determining factor if it's compelling enough to watch. What would the effort level be, especially from those NFL guys?
Do you put it in a flag football scenario? Like, do you just take it and keep it as like a flag football scenario and let the athletes go be athletes?
But I mean, if you could get them both to compete, I think that would be interesting, because I know a lot of people sometimes say like such and such college football team could beat the worst NFL team. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't.
I mean, because
I wouldn't put it past a team in the college football playoff to beat the Panthers this year. So
in the thing that kind of brought that to my attention was the what was that list that you sent me on Instagram a while ago with the receivers that we were talking about?
Malik Neighbors. The eight, like first team All America team: Jaden, Malik Neighbors, Marv, Romo Dunze.
Yeah, so you like that got me to thinking, like, man, you put those guys on the field at the same time, like you take that All-American list or the college all-stars or whatever you want to call them, and you put them on the field and you find a way to make it a competitive game, put some money on the line, put a obviously there would have to be money on the line or whatever, but I think that would be an incredible game to watch with, the impending rookies that are coming in through the draft, and then the guys that already have a year under their belt. I think that would be, pretty cool game to see.
Yeah, I mean, you got Jaden Daniels, Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, Cody Schrader from Mizzou, Malik Neighbors, Marv, Romo Dunze, and Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that offense against the NFL rookies. I mean, that'd be cool to see them go up against, like CJ Stroud and some of those other NFL rookies that have balled this year, Bijan Robinson and some of those other guys. I think that'd be pretty sweet. Something to liven up that Pro Bowl weekend, Yeah,
if not, just get rid of the damn thing.
Yeah. But anyways, I had that thought, and
that's cool. Like, man,
that's kind of cool thinking about that. So, anyways,
let's put the wheels in motion.
Doesn't hurt to use the old imagination once in a while and come up with something cool. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been episode 32 of High Street Sports. As we've been mentioning, we're on the road to 100 subs here on the channel, and it would be cool to get that before the conclusion of this football season.
How many are we at?
63, I believe.
Come
so
on.
Be a friend, tell a friend, spread the word, share the show, like, comment, subscribe. If you haven't already, hit that sub button. Doesn't cost you anything, and it would really help us out. And as always, let us know what you think about the show, what we're talking about. We love to see the opinions and see questions and talk about what you guys want to talk about. And so we wouldn't be here every week if you guys weren't. The numbers on the channel have looked pretty good, and we're getting more and more engagement as we go. So continue to do those things. Share us. Let the world know about High Street Sports, because it's only going to get bigger from here. John Ross, any final thoughts?
Go football. Almost over, but go football.
Yeah, enjoy it while you can, because it won't be here much longer. Guys, for John Ross, my name is Chris. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.